Hi, this is Aaron Azarod, and welcome to the 58th episode of the Truth Island podcast. Have you ever been driving along perfectly content in your good old reliable car when you bump into an old friend of yours that happens to be driving the latest Tesla? Your friend shows off all the bells and whistles, state-of-the-art voice-activated seat control, a heated steering wheel, and heck, the car can even parallel park itself. You exchange a few more pleasantries with your friend before departing ways. A thought now grabs a hold of you. A thought that wasn't there previously. I ought to get myself a new car. After work the next day, you drive yourself to the car dealership, and the dealer shows you the same model Tesla as that of your friend, only it's the next year's edition. You see the $49,000 price tag, but the salesman assures you that there are so many financing options that could work within your income bracket. You think of your friend and decide, what the heck? I only live once, I gotta enjoy life. You enter the salesman's office and you are signing one of the last pieces of paper when all of a sudden your cell phone rings. It's your wife. You pick up the phone. Hello? Sweetie, are you at the dealership? Don't buy us a new car. I I like the one that we currently have. There's nothing wrong with it. You hang up the phone with your wife's voice fresh in your head. You turn back to the salesperson and tell him that something has just come up and you won't be able to close the transaction that day, but you promise to return. Only you don't. You return to your old car and drive home far happier than if you had left in a new vehicle. Sometimes in life, it is important to be frugal. Joining me on the show is Christopher. Christopher, why is it that in life we don't always have to spend that much to feel good about ourselves?
Well, yeah, there's definitely a lot of ways that you can look at that. Like, for example, feeling good about ourselves, having an intact sense of self worth. If one can achieve that independent of, what school they may or may not have gone to, or what pair of sneakers, let's say, or having the latest iPhone or things like that. And don't get me wrong, I mean, in and of themselves, there's absolutely nothing wrong with those things. I mean, I have a Kenneth Cole watch, I but I happen to find that at Century 21 when they were going out of business. So, if you have a good eye for, deals and whatever, you can kind of get that high end stuff. But at the same time, I've also I bought a watch from Target and I think it was about 15, $16. But aesthetically, it had a gorgeous minimalist design. If I didn't draw attention to that, somebody might have looked at it and said, "Oh wow, that's did you get that on the Upper East Side or something?" So you can kind of, I guess, hack things, but I definitely think the sense of self worth.
It's funny you mentioned watches. When I was a bit of a younger man, one of my favorite watches was, do you remember those Casio calculator watches back in the day?
Oh
I used
yeah,
to I used to
yeah.
have one of those and I would wear it everywhere. And people know that if you got the Casio calculator watch, it was like maybe 20 bucks at most, but I loved it. It was super practical. Like every time I would go to a diner, I could just calculate the tip using my watch. This is before I had a smartphone and so forth. And I never felt happier wearing that watch. And sometimes we think that if we're not wearing a 500 or $1,000 watch, like there's something wrong with us. But in some ways, I'm sure that Target watch brought you a great deal of happiness for 12 bucks.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I just it seemed like it just to call out to me, and I just really, yeah, I just dug it. It was great. Had I not seen, the Kenneth Cole one on sale, I probably would have overlooked that for something similar, like, the aesthetic design and everything. And, like the lower, sticker price and everything.
Yeah, yeah. And when we think about it, like a watch simply has the job of telling time. right? It's not
Right.
it's like people get lost. And have you ever seen these watches, Christopher, where like they don't even have numbers on them? They don't even have the Roman numerals. They just got like a diamond or something where the 12 o'clock
Yeah.
symbol is. I think that's the most ridiculous thing ever, because I can't even tell time with that thing. I don't care how expensive that watch is. I would take a $20 digital watch over that thing any day of the week.
Oh, I agree. I mean, and it's funny too. I mean, I adore my iPad and I'm grateful to the value that my iPhone has brought me, but I'm going to take a pass on the Apple Watch just because I've got something on my wrist that does the job already. I mean, like, I have a watch that tells me time. And from what I've been given to understand, the Apple Watch basically does a lot of the same things the iPad and the iPhone does anyway. So it's
Sure.
like, yeah, so definitely things like that. I'll sit it out on that one, just
Yeah, no, and I think we sometimes buy things that are redundant. Like I think that Apple Watch is very redundant. Like, okay, what does it save you? Like I have to reach into my pocket and pull out my phone to look something up, and then or I could be on the watch. Now, I think that Christopher, like something like the Apple Watch is really just satisfying the ego, because I think it's something that people like to do to show other people how impressive their watch is. Like you could easily reach into your jeans and pull out your phone, but when you got the Apple Watch, it's like, look, I'm like, I'm James Bond here. I can like
right,
activate this.
right. Well, yeah, it was almost like when they had the Google Glass thing and everything. Yeah, that was over my head. I just was like, all right. I mean, I can wait an hour to get home to look something up or whatever the whole. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that, what people don't realize is that these material items pull us into debt. They make us work overtime. They make us work longer hours than we really want to, and distract. And like the guy who has to pay for the Apple Watch, well, that's less time that he gets to spend with his family, or that's less time that he gets to spend doing other things that he might enjoy, because he has that $3,000 credit card bill.
Exactly. I had heard, I don't remember if this was in a movie or if I read this in like a, philosophical text, but the whole thing about after a while your stuff starts to own you. So that was why like in 2014, for example, I got rid of my television.
Nice.
And yeah, it's funny, people look at me like I'm on crack sometimes when I tell them that. And I'm just like, well, how many times can I watch Kramer fall down? I mean, I, you know, yeah, and don't get me wrong. I mean, that was hilarious, and I can always watch the boil down on YouTube if I really get a hankering,
Sure.
to see some greatest hits thing. But yeah, yeah, like the whole like binging and even like Amazon Prime, I've never signed up for that just because like if I order something, I'll usually get it within 3, 4 days tops. And, it's not a biological imperative that I get, the thing like in an hour.
Yes, yes. I think, my friend, I think I will invite you again to talk about life without television, because I think that's
Uh,
miraculous. I don't think you're crazy at
uh,
all. I think that's a very beautiful thing to have in your life.
well, thank you. Thank you.
But yes, I think that, remove it. Like I love what you just said about these material items come to own us instead. And the way I interpret that is that we sometimes sell our values, and we sometimes sell who we are in order to pay for these things. And I always use the example of the guy who has to work a job that he really despises, right? And maybe in that
Right.
job he has to do unsavory things. Maybe he has to screw other people over. Maybe he has to be cutthroat. And he's doing that. And he
Right.
tells himself, well, it's all worth it. Look at the car that I drive. Look at the Tesla or whatever it is that I drive. But in actuality, that material item is causing him to do like ungodly things to his coworkers, or to be deceptive, or to really harm other people.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot to be said for that. Absolutely. You see a lot of people who on the surface appear to have it made and everything, but then deep down, I guess their conscience or their ego or however their compass is, basically chewing them up from the inside out. So yeah, I do think that there is a lot to be said for that. And and that's the thing too. If manage your money correctly, as far as like not splurging so much, things like that, you could take a job where more your heart is. Maybe it won't pay as much, but if you're not running out and getting all the must-haves, yeah. So I mean, it's like with everything, it's a trade-off. But the peace of mind you get at the end of the day is because I mean, when I go outside, I see so many like flat screen TVs. Sometimes they'll have the note attached to it, for free, or it'll just be sitting there by like the city garbage can. And I mean, I don't know what went on in that household, but I know like every 30 minutes, it seems they're upgrading the technology and the aesthetic. So I mean, it's just a theory. I'm guessing keeping up with the Joneses, it's like, well, I had this flat screen TV, but there's the better one. Let me, and it's funny too. They don't even think to like maybe try to resell it on eBay or Mercari or something.
Yeah,
That,
yeah,
that's what really gets me. It's like, well, okay, yeah, I know a newer, better model is out, but there'd probably be somebody who'd be happy with that, and
sure.
and you might take a bath a little in the price, but it's not just sitting out there, like making
Collecting
more work.
snow. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean that's and I don't think that those people are as enlightened as you and getting rid of their television because they stopped watching TV. They're probably taking their 1080 television and getting a 4K television or whatever. And
Right.
I think that they're not even thinking about reselling their old television. They're not donating it to the Salvation Army. They're kind of just leaving it there at the curb. But I also have to give you credit as well because I think it's also empowering to pass by that television and be like, no, I don't want it. Like not for me. Like just to just I think there's almost power in refusing something nice, even when it's offered to you. There's power in that alone.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, I don't know how enlightened I am, but just I guess a spiritual perspective, it's like, well, I thank you for that opportunity, but it's like I'm content, like with my playlist on YouTube, let's say, or something like that. And
Yeah, no, I think that it's nice that we can get to some state in our life where it's like, thank you, but no thanks. I've got everything I need here, right? And it's the same thing with food. It's like if you've ever been at a buffet or something like that, it takes real discipline to be like, I am full now, and to walk away from that buffet. And the same thing with consuming media and fancier toys. It really takes a lot of hard work and discipline to be like, thanks, but no thanks in those cases.
yeah, oh no, I agree, and it does take a lot of practice. I used to be like like an impulse buyer and stuff like that.
Tell me, no, so we talked earlier and you said you had some strategies for saving money. You want to walk us through that?
Oh yeah, well, one thing, and this might sound overly simplistic, like you take like an envelope or a jar, an old coffee can, and let's say it's January 2021. You decide, all right, I'm going to put $1 in here in January. Then what you would do then is in February put $2, March you would put three, April four, so on and so forth. Now I know that sounds really, again, overly simplistic at the beginning, but the challenge comes in like November when you're putting in $11, then $12, then 13, and so on and so forth. But if you stick with it and a couple of years goes by, you sit there and count it up, you get kind of a rush. It's like, wow, I did this, and not from a ha ha, I did this, but it's like I did this without anyone's help or coddling or that external validation that I think in the West is almost like a drug to us sometimes. And so it's like, you did that on your own. And when you have that extra money, it's very comforting to have that on the side, because in case some unexpected expense should come up, like for example, a lot of people do need their iPhone for work.
Sure.
And so if something, you accidentally give it a bath one day, it's like, well, okay, I've got this wad that I've been putting away for the last year and a half. That'll offset some of, if not all of it. So that's another added motivation, knowing that you'll have that, and any stress about money one might have starts to ameliorate as time goes on.
I love and this I love this technique because it's like all you have to do in the month of September is just save $1, and then in October you're saving $2 and so forth. And
Right.
it's like because what happens is that you have all of this complicated financial advice, like you need to open up a high yield savings, whatever, and the average person doesn't even know what the hell that is. But I like this idea that, okay, you're not saving 20% of your paycheck or 25% of your paycheck. We're just asking you to take a dollar once a month. And then the next month, the successive month, $2 and then $3. And I like this idea because let's just say you never touch that jar of money, or that money
Right.
under the mattress or whatever for like 10 years or something like that. I think like the comfort, like having that emergency mattress money is going to bring so much joy into your life and so much comfort into your life. And if you want to put it in a savings account, there's probably nothing wrong with
Oh,
that. Yeah, yeah. Nothing like down the
yeah.
line, like in 10 years, you probably don't want like to have, $10,000 under your mattress, or whatever. But like, like I
Yeah.
think I think having that, under the mattress money, whether it's, literally under your mattress or in a savings account, that actually brings a huge peace of mind because like you said, when the iPhone breaks or you lose your job or God forbid the refrigerator breaks or one of these like really important thing breaks, you're not having like a panic or a nervous breakdown.
Actually, yeah, that did happen to me about 3 years ago. The refrigerator did blow out, and I was able to offset that and not white knuckle it till the next payday. I was like, all right, it's cool, just so yeah. When you mentioned the savings account, I did actually jot that down. Their Amex current as of October 1st, the APY on that is 0.60.
Mm,
Discovers is usually 5 times the national average. And Robinhood, now take this with a grain of salt because they did just get hacked, but they do have the cash management feature. So any uninvested money you have, right now the APY is 0.30%. But even if, let's say, you open a Robinhood, you dump, say, $100 in there and just let it sit there, even though you're not actively investing it, it is gaining interest. So you can start to do that too, is set up all these little things in the background that are humming away,
yeah,
accumulating interest. And again, that's that added layer of security. Because I know now too with the pandemic, we're also, like more money conscious than we were
sure.
at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, no, I think, but the thing about Robinhood is that if I'm not, I know very little about this, but like I think that's like a trading platform. So there's always that temptation to like, oh, it looks like Apple's up right now, and I mean, if you know what you're doing, my girlfriend loves my girlfriend loves playing with that kind of stuff. I let her do that,
Right.
but for like a knucklehead like me who doesn't know like, exactly how to do that, I think like even just this like the CD, like even just putting the money in the CD, and okay, I
All
can't,
right.
I can't touch this for a year or whatever, and it's at 2% or something. I think that's not bad either. But I think all of these systems, whether it's under the mattress, it's in Robinhood, or it's in a CD or in a savings account, is that what
Right.
it comes down to is that you need that discipline there not to touch that money because it's
Yeah.
tied to your long-term happiness. And I think that
Right.
people make the mistake of thinking, wait a minute, it's the new car that's the happiness, and they fail to realize, no, it's the money sitting in the savings account that's the happiness, not the money, like not what the money can buy you, but just having it in the back of your head.
Right. It's basically retraining oneself. The long term peace of mind, that's where the happiness is. as opposed to the quick fix or the instant gratification. So yeah, I mean, and it took me a long time to finally get mind, body, spirit on, all on board with that. Yeah, it was definitely, but it's definitely worth it in the long run. I mean, I've thankfully, I've been able to weather the storm, the last 5, 6 months. So,
That's good. I mean, and that's good. I mean, especially during, the pandemic, a lot of people are hurting out there, and my heart goes out to them.
oh yeah.
It's really tough times. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, are there just a few things in life that are just kind of worth it, like worth not skimping out on? I always think of like have a decent pair of sneakers, especially you can wear them for like 2 or 3 years and really get some value out of that. Like that's just my one go-to thing if I'm thinking of something nice. And I don't know. I feel like when we think about the things that we should not skimp out on, it's always things that we know we have to rely on for like the next 10 years. That's that, like major appliances, dishwashers, things like
Oh,
I think of my major appliances that I'm like, all right, I seriously need this AC to work for the next 10, 15 years. I'll spend a little bit more money if I know I know that this isn't going to be a headache in 10 years time. Do you have any of those items in your life, Christopher?
yeah, well, definitely, yeah, the fridge, I got that, a Frigidaire. So obviously, yeah, things like that. And recently I did need a new pair of sneakers. And now I can't speak on behalf of the Century 21, like in Lower Manhattan or in other parts of the city,
Yeah.
but the one near me is still receiving. So I went in there, I was like, yeah, let me just see I found a pair of Levi's sneakers and they're only $15. So I do agree that something, like, a pair of footwear, you want it to last you a good couple of years. But
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
also know where to look, you can find like a high end thing and not break the bank on it. Like, for example, when I was in Fort Lauderdale, I found at Ross a pair of good sneakers, and they were comparable to like Skechers or whatever. And those lasted me pretty close to 2 years.
Wow.
So yeah, if you know where to look, you can definitely find something that's high end, or the bottom line, you'll get like some decent mileage out of it, something you won't have to worry about again for a good couple of years.
Yes, yes, yes. And I think even like Marshalls used to be one of these places where you would
Oh yeah.
get they would like send all the clothes like that, they make, they off the rack or whatever it is. But at the same time, like if you can find something quality that's gonna last like a very long time, I think that's kind of what you need to that's kind of a part of your decision making of like, because when you have to buy something new, there's a lot of anxiety that comes with that. I was telling
Oh
somebody,
yeah.
I was
Yeah.
telling, I was telling someone a few podcasts ago that one of the things that gives me the most anxiety, and this is a silly thing, is going into shopping malls. Like I hate shopping malls because I'm overwhelmed with so many choices, so many different options, and then you have that fear, like I'm gonna pull down $200 and this thing is gonna break in a year, or it's gonna make a funny noise, or whatever it is, and I think that the idea of all of your spending choices should be in such a way of like, I don't want to ever think about this again. And I hope it's another 3 years before I dare have to step foot in another shopping mall. Like the goal of
Uh,
life is not to be going to the shopping mall every single weekend. The goal,
right.
you know
Right.
what I mean? Like the goal of the shopping mall is to go there as little as possible, and then get a bunch of stuff at once, and then be like, I'm done with this. I don't need to think about this again for hopefully, several months to a year.
No, I agree. I like that, to set it and forget it. I absolutely. I think that's a great way to go about it. Especially, I mean, not just as far as maximizing your budget, but your time too. Like how you spend your free time and stuff. You could spend that time with family, or your significant other, or if you have like a passion project, let's say, you like to paint, or you have a YouTube channel that you do just for the pure love of it, something you like to share with the world. That's time you can reinvest in so many other ways.
Yes. I mean, Christopher, I'm just thinking about this. It's like, we have so many Americans that, aren't reading books. They're overweight, right? And it's like, but when Americans have even just a slight amount of free time, they run to the shopping mall and they're
Right,
wasting gas. They're riding the subway
right,
for an hour or the bus for whatever. And, then, oh, they shop for 3 or 4 hours. Then they get hungry. They got to go to the food court.
right,
Now we're eating the Mickey D's and stuff. Where it's like you don't have to do any of those things on a given Saturday or Sunday. You could actually spend that weekend exercising, reading books, or just as you described, engaging in some type of passion project and finding your higher meaning or your higher calling. But I feel like most of us aren't even getting out of the shopping mall and realizing that.
No, I agree. I've observed that a lot myself, and everyone's desires are different. So I mean, no judgment there. But at the same time, though, a lot of these people I've noticed will complain about some kind of unhappiness or anxiety, and the causal they don't put the cause and effect thing together. So I mean, I guess it's that whole thing: when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. And yeah, so that's why, I mean, I'm grateful for this opportunity to exchange ideas with you today, of course, but I'm not out there like preaching to people or anything like that.
No, no, you're right
Yeah.
about that, about like when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. And I don't want to be that jerk that's like, oh, another thing, like some people who go minimalist route, they make a fundamental mistake, Christopher. And what they do is they become overly preachy and they become overly judgy. And that's a huge mistake. If you're going the minimalistic route, be happy with yourself and be happy with your minimalistic lifestyle. Don't go out and preach to other people. Yes, this is a podcast and other people might be listening, but I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to be like,
Right, right.
if buying things still makes you happy,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
okay, like if that's your game in life, okay, I love you, I respect you, but I would ask yourself, if you are feeling a bit of anxiety or you notice that 12th pair of jeans isn't quite doing it for you the way that
Right.
second pair of jeans did it for you, maybe you want to listen to what me and you are saying and maybe reevaluate some of these life choices right now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, like once the sugar high wears off and when you find it's not lasting as long, then that's the time for self introspection.
Yeah, I
It,
think I think in economics they call it diminishing returns. It's like,
yeah, the law of diminishing returns. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, you got, that first cup of coffee really hits the spot. And this is a mistake I make every morning, is that first cup of coffee hits the spot. I make my own coffee at home, by the way, but
Oh,
first cup of
nice.
coffee hits the spot, but then I tempt fate and go for that third cup of coffee, and then I
Yeah.
get a little headache and I'm running to the bathroom and so forth. So
Yeah.
it's sometimes you just have to know that having more stuff isn't the answer. Like, it's not having zero stuff, but I think there comes a point where it's just like enough is enough already.
Oh, yeah. That part of in my journey where I got to that point, like, okay, there's all these things. Like, for example, I used to have my mail forwarded to the comic book store. I used to love action figures, all that. But after a while, it got to a point like, okay, like 98% of them are just sitting in a plastic tote. I haven't played with them or even looked at them in months. And I heard, oh, I forgot the woman's name. She's like somebody kind of well known, like if not on like mainstream television, like definitely YouTube. But I know she had said, if you haven't thought about it, let alone used it in the last 6 months, you know,
Mm,
it's time to, give it to a friend or colleague or sell it or donate it. So I remember I started going through the figures and there was stuff in there I forgot I even had. And
yeah.
so, it hit me like a bolt of lightning. I was like, all right, if I forgot about this, I think I can stand to offload this permanently. And my overall sense of well being, my quality of life isn't going to diminish at all.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And then it's funny because you totally forget about something, but then someone tries to take it away from you. You're like, no, no, that's my favorite, whatever. And I'm like, listen, man, you haven't really thought about that in like 3 years. It's been sitting here. I guarantee you, if someone took that away, you wouldn't even know that it was missing or whatever. And it's kind of like this idea that we accrue more things that we're even aware that we have or that we even want. And way it's up to us to ultimately decide, like,
right.
okay, I have forgotten that this is here right now. Let me give it to somebody else who will cherish it on a daily basis or on a monthly basis or whatever it is. And that's a simple act, and it's not really harming you in any such way because you haven't thought of it. I would say my rule is like a year. Okay, I'll go beyond the 6 months and be like, if you haven't
Oh
touched that
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
if you haven't touched that thing in a year or whatever it is, just think to yourself, wait a minute, maybe someone out there might might benefit from this on a daily basis where I haven't thought of it in a year. Okay, next thing I want to say, and it's very easy to live this minimalistic lifestyle when you're alone in your apartment and you're by yourself. What
Right.
happens, Christopher, when you're meeting your friends, for a cup of coffee or maybe a couple drinks, whatever, and they're like, Christopher, you might want to invest in a new belt. Like, how do you kind of get out of that one? Because I feel like, first off, I don't think anyone should be criticizing what belt you have. I think they should just mind their own business. I'm just saying
Right.
that right, right,
Oh
right,
yeah,
right,
right.
right from the get go. But it does get into people's mind. Like, when people do say these things, like you ought to invest in a new belt, it does creep into people's mind. I'm wondering if you have any techniques for getting that out of your mind.
Well, I read somewhere once, I read this online somewhere. Unless you're sleeping in my bed or paying my bills, your opinion is irrelevant to me. And I know that might sound a little standoffish, but I really thought about that. Yeah, that's true. I mean, your opinion, I mean, it might sting a little in the moment, but ongoing, I mean, are you going to foot the bill for the new belt? Probably not.
Yeah,
So,
no, no, Chris, this is I
yeah.
love, no, no, I love that saying. That's a beautiful saying. I think the next time somebody hits me up with, Aaron, you better invest in a new belt, I'll be like, you're right. Would you like to buy me one? I think that should be like the very next thing out of my mouth is like, great, when are we going shopping for that? Because it's like, you're right. Why is it anyone else's business about how old my clothing is or anything else about myself if they're not like some kind of benefactor that's investing in like when you're my benefactor, okay, you can tell me what I should or should not wear, but I think it's just wrong that people go out there in this world and criticize what other people are wearing or the things that they like when they're not, they're just adding negativity into your mind. They're not actually providing you anything.
Right. There's, constructive criticism's one thing, but yeah, if people are just being like cliquish or, snide about
And
it,
and
that,
here's
yeah,
here's here's another way to get around this. If that friend really cares about you and they saw that you needed a new belt, they could very well go to Century 21 or whatever and just get a belt and be like, "Hey, Christopher, I could see that you maybe need a new belt. I saw this on sale and I thought about you, my friend. Here you go." And you may like that belt, you may not like that belt, but I think that's
yeah,
more genuine care for another human being than, hey, you ought to invest in this or something like that. And I think that, like, yes, we do get judged on the way that we dress and the way that we appear. Like, this is unfortunate, but at the same time, when people are criticizing us, we have to evaluate if it's coming from a genuine and helpful place or if it's coming from a place of condescension.
right, right. That's, yeah. And I mean, there's definitely barometers to gauge that, like the energy behind it and everything like that. Yeah, like, I mean, I've had people, dollar stores have kind of a like stink to them. Like at times I've sounded like an infomercial for Dollar Tree, but then I'll tell them like at Dollar Tree, believe it or not, you can get like Palmolive, Scott tissue, Reynolds wrap. I've seen Wolfgang Puck soups there. You can get Lever 2000, the body wash, LA Colors, the cosmetics. So you can get all that stuff that, in a CVS, it'd be highway robbery, but you're literally paying $1 a pop for all of that name brand stuff. So it's like when you get past that, keeping up with the Joneses thing, and start really scoping out all these alternative venues, you end up saving yourself a lot of money. This comes from a place where I want to see you win in life. So it's like, well, rather than splurge all that money over at Walgreens, you can get three, rolls of sparkle for $3 at Dollar Tree,
Th-
rather
and
than
this
you.
and this is all just like overcoming like mental stigma. Like it's mental stigma because I think we all went to school and kids would make fun of you. Oh, is that are those shoes from Payless or whatever? And it's like
Yeah.
once you overcome the mental stigma of all of this stuff, you can actually start saving money, and you start realizing that all you can get all of these like tinfoil and all these other things that you're speaking about that completely satisfy your needs. And it's really just coming over these mental fake blocks in our head. And I think
Right.
I think once you overcome other people's criticism or other people's thought of you, you can actually start saving money and start really just enjoying things that are a lot cheaper. Final thing that I want to talk to you about, my friend, is this idea of making things last. And
Oh,
uh,
absolutely.
I think back to my grandma, and when I was like, I think 2 or 3 years old, about up until the time that she died. I think when she died, I was about 19, 20. She had the same dining room table, the same chairs, the same couch,
Oh,
like the same like. So for the entire duration of my life that she was alive, same exact things, and not a scratch to be found in any of these things. Like completely, everything was completely well preserved. And she came from she came from that Great Depression, World War II era.
right.
And I feel like that is something that we don't really follow anymore, my friend. Like
I
I feel like I see kids these days, like they just toss the freaking cell phone on the floor, they just toss whatever, and they don't handle things with care, with gentleness and with love. And I think it's this idea of like, either someone else is going to replace that for me, or I will replace it myself if I'm an adult. And I think that's a very dangerous mindset that we've fallen into late, of like, let me just handle everything with disrespect because I'll just buy another one if it breaks.
I agree. The ability to appreciate value and take care of things, I do think by and large, I agree, has kind of fallen by the wayside. It's funny you should mention, the Depression era. Right around the time the start of the pandemic, I saw on YouTube it was something like Depression era cooking, and it was a woman who survived the Depression, and she was showing, I think it was dandelion stew or dandelion soup, I believe it was,
Wow.
just things, how they learned to do more with less back then. And I was starting to see a slight resurgence of that back in April or May, but I agree that seems to have fallen off the radar again. I think part of it too, and not to sound like an apologist or anything, but I think the whole, with easy financing, easy credit, some of these places won't even check your credit. I think that's part of it. I had a laptop that somebody gave to me actually in 2012, and I took care of that thing like it was an infant. In fact,
I like that.
I
Like an
I held
infant,
on.
like an infant. I like that. Yes.
It wasn't until last year, September, when I got my first iPad that I finally, and the only reason I finally offloaded the laptop was the software on it was so out of date.
Yeah.
It was like becoming harder to open up web pages properly. So basically, I had no choice but to get with the times.
Yes, and it's like I like this idea that you should take care of your stuff like an infant until it's just inoperable. Like you just cannot, you physically cannot use it. Then is the right time to buy something new. Yes.
That was, in fact, my backup phone. It's a flip phone actually from Track Phone. I got it in 2016, and I I mean, I realize like I could walk in and upgrade that to a smartphone or an Android, but I reckon, all right, it's the backup. It's got plenty of minutes on it. I can make a call. I can get a call. What if it ain't broke? Why fix it?
Yes, yes.
So yeah, that's and oh, the iPad. I've only brought it out of the apartment twice. So yeah, since I've gotten it. So yeah, the like until it becomes incompatible with exterior, like websites, whatever else is
Yeah,
going on.
right, right.
Yeah, because yeah, I mean, I get like my smartphone. I get text all the time, like upgrade now for $1 down, and it again the photography and video is beautiful. The phone reception's great, the text and everything. I figure again, until I accidentally give it a bath or like 5G, 6G, or something,
Right, right.
makes it a necessity to.
I still use like an like I have like my phone right now is like an iPhone SE, and I still use in my
Oh,
apartment an iPhone 5, like just to listen to music and stuff. I don't use that to go outside, but I'm like, there's nothing like, okay, there's nothing I can't do with this phone that any iPhone 11 really has. Okay, the iPhone 11 is bigger, faster, the pixels in the camera are a bit better,
yeah.
but who cares? All I do is watch videos, check my email, visit Wikipedia. I don't see why I need all of this other stuff, but I think what it comes down to, Christopher, is you see other people with the iPhone 11, and then you're embarrassed to pull out your iPhone 5 or your iPhone SE, and you feel
Yeah.
shame. You feel shame, like, oh, well, everyone is here, and I'm still there, and all this other stuff. But once you overcome the mental shame of it, then you treat your objects like an infant, like you just said before, and that's a beautiful thing.
Oh, thank you. In fact, I've got a sweater somebody gave me in 2009, and I've still got it. I mean, I reckon it ain't moth eaten. There's not like all holes in it and stuff like that, and got me through the last couple of winters. So I'll just keep going with that till indefinite.
Yes, until it's like, you just can't wear it anymore. And I think
Right,
that's
right.
that's the key thing, is that it has to be completely, it can't just be old, because people say, oh man, that's old. No, 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 it doesn't matter that that table is old. None of that stuff matters. What matters is if it still works, and that's the thing that people don't get. Doesn't matter about old, matters if it works or does not work.
Right. That's a lot of like one of the guidelines I try to use, like like old and broken aren't synonyms.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Ooh, I like that.
uh,
Old and broken
uh,
are not synonyms. Yes, man. That's, and I
oh,
got to put down
thanks.
that's beautiful, sir. Like that. That
Oh,
is
thank you.
absolutely beautiful. I think that's really smart, and I think once we get over the social conditioning of that, and then like, look, things will break. You will need to buy a new whatever one day. That will
Oh
happen.
yeah.
But I think the techniques that we just gave here are really gonna, like, mitigate people's anxiety and so forth.
No, yeah, no, I'm grateful for that because it was in fact it was just last week. I guess maybe it was Saturday or Sunday night. I was kind of burning the midnight oils, but I heard two women outside just walking by, just laughing, having a good time, and I thought that's what I want to hear more of ongoing.
Mm.
Just no stress, just chilled, enjoying yourself. So if this helps contribute to that in some way, then definitely, right on. That's
Yes, and I to those listening out there, I think at the very least, instead of going to the shopping mall this Sunday, if it's a nice day, go for a walk in a park. Christopher, thank you so much for being on the show today.
oh, it's a pleasure, and thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm grateful, and I do hope that some of the tips and hacks helps people, especially in these topsy turvy times we're in.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This concludes the 58th episode of the Truth Island podcast. I'm Aaron Azrod.